everyone, this is Ashley with CT Arena Digitals. I'm going to do another tutorial on my dramatic cloud backdrop overlays in Photoshop. I already have my images open that I want to use. I'm going to go ahead and go over to my subject, and I'm going to go to my quick selection tool and select subject here up at the top. Make sure that they're selected pretty good, and then I'm going to duplicate my layer, create a layer mask, and then press Ctrl or Command I on my keyboard and invert that layer. I'm going to come over, select all, edit and copy, edit and paste into my image, resize if you need to, and then I'm going to right click this layer and create clipping mask, and that's going to put it behind my subject. Now first off, I want my background, my overlay to be not as blue, so I'm going to actually unclip it from my backdrop for a minute. I'm going to go up to my hue saturation layer and press this button to create a clipping mask, and I'm going to drag down the saturation on that. Merge those two layers and clip it behind there again. Okay, and then I'm going to add some blurs to my overlay. So I'm going to go up to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Put it further behind my subject there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on that mask, and I'm going to use my white brush at about 40% opacity, and I'm just going to brush those clouds onto the bottom of her dress a bit. If you wanted to brush it off so you couldn't see the dress at all, you could do that too. So my brighter overlays I have for my clouds, I included a cloud overlay, but since my dramatic overlays are darker, it's a lot easier to just actually grab your overlay again to do an overlay on the bottom of her feet. So I'm actually going to use my rectangle marquee, and I'm just going to grab that down there, and I'm going to edit and copy and click on my top layer here, edit and paste. I'm going to drag it down to the bottom, and then I'm going to change the blending mode to screen. And then I'm going to create a layer mask on that. I grab my black brush at 100% opacity, and I'm just going to brush off that top edge up here. And then I'm going to add a curves layer because I want this to be a little bit darker. I'm going to press this button right here to make sure that it's only going on to my cloud overlay, and I'm going to drag that down to make that a bit darker. And now I'm going to actually want to add some shadows to her too. So I'm going to click my bottom layer here, I'm going to go to my levels, and I'm just going to drag this top slider over a little bit just to darken the shadows on there. Okay, now I'm going to go up to my layer again on her, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to fix up the edges. So around the hair, I like to use a smaller brush at, I'm going to do about 25% opacity. Oops. Make sure I'm using my white brush. Actually going to get the edges real quick at 100%. And then I will go in and shape it a little bit more, but I want to get rid of these raw edges first. Okay, and then I'd go down to about, I'll do 30% instead, and get out these. I'm going to go down to 15%. The hair is the hardest part sometimes, but you just gotta brush it little by little. Okay, I'm gonna go back up to 100%. And for tutorial's sake, I'm not going to be too tedious about this, but you would want to clean up all the edges so they're softer and they don't have those sharp edges on them from Select Subject. If you needed to brush on or off at all, you'd use black to brush back on if you needed to. The hair takes a while sometimes. It's actually going to brush a little bit of it back on. But I would go back and forth with brushing on and brushing off her hair, different opacities, different size brushes, until it looks flowy enough to my liking. And then I would brighten her up just a little bit in certain areas. So I'm going to click on this bottom layer down here. I'm just going to use my dodge tool real quick on midtones, and I'm just going to add some highlights in to her real quick. Now she's pretty cool, like the color tone in this photo, but I'm okay with that because it matches the backdrop. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. And then if you want, you can use your blur tool and go ahead and zoom in. And I like to do this especially on the dreamier images. I'm going to, just on the very edge of her, I'm going to use my blur tool, especially down here on the bottom of the dress. Like I said, if you want to get rid of the dress completely down here, you can, but I kind of like to be able to see it through the clouds a little bit. And now I wish I would have, that hair is bothering me. I definitely would go back in and fix the hair a little bit more. Actually gonna go up to filter and liquefy. Make it look a little bit better here real quick. Just going to add some volume to it this way. Okay. And now I actually wish I would have extended the backdrop before adding the overlay. I'm going to use my crop tool real quick. And I'm going to drag this out a little. It might not look okay, but I'm going to make sure content aware is selected. And we'll see how it fills it for us. But I definitely would have extended the background first, so more of the clouds were showing in the overlay. Not too bad. It recloned a couple of spots here, so I would just go in and make it look like it's not. There we go. And it looks like it. Photoshop is so weird. Like, doesn't have any line there, and then when you zoom out it does, which it's not actually there. And then, as in my other tutorial for my other ones, I like to, when I'm trying to blend backdrops a little bit more, I'll add a solid color overlay, which I'm going to go ahead and select my brush And I'm going to select a blue in here, pretty blue, and then I'm going to create a solid color layer. And it's going to pick up that color that I just selected. Press OK, and then I'm going to drag only down to, actually I'm going to do like 8. See how that kind of added that blue hue over the whole image, and then I'm going to flatten. And then I'm going to add some contrast to get those highlights and my shadows back in there the way I want them. Levels layer too, just to deepen those shadows. Okay, before, after. Very different image, very pretty. You could always also like add a little bit of, go in with your, since this light is coming from the back, you could go in and add some highlights around the edge of her. I would have done this before flattening my image. And then you could just also add a layer on color. Select that orange color right there. And then 30, let's try 30% too. Just lightly paint on a little bit of that golden color on that edge of her. And it's a subtle change, but it can make a difference. Okay, and that's it. If you have any questions, you can message me on Etsy. If you are a studio photographer, I would love for you to join my group on Facebook. I will link it in the description.